Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year to all our Lazio fans all over the world. Well, the new year didn't start really well, honestly. Very disappointment performance from Lazio yesterday against Lecce away. First match of the season. It's funny because things started quite not well, right? The first 25 minutes, uh, Lazio look in control. Casale had a huge chance. Ciro Immobile scored, then had another opportunity. Then we had another chance with Basic. Uh, Alison McKenzie, Happy New Year to you. It seemed that the Lazio started really strong. Then what happened?
Yeah, well, Happy New Year to you too, and all our listeners. At halftime I was pretty happy. To be honest, the first half was the only one I managed to watch uninterrupted because I had to go and look after my 8-week-old nephew during the second half, which was slightly distracting. But when I kind of stopped, at halftime when I went in, I was pretty happy with what I'd seen. Like you say, they're creating a lot of chances, moving the ball around well. I was on the verge of tweeting actually, and glad I didn't. That I was really surprised they'd picked up how they left off. It felt like they'd managed to kind of quickly fall back into stride. But yeah, it's second half. I mean, it's pretty much as big a disaster as you could possibly have ever feared. Not only conceding 2 goals for Lecce to go on and win the game, but also having the match stop for a couple of minutes because Lazio fans in the away ends were racially abusing Lecce players, and it's really a brutal, ugly start to the new year, which has really depressed me ever since, to be honest, both on the field for what we saw and because of what the fans were up to off it. Yeah.
Yeah, again, the beginning was great because watching the stands, it was like 1,000, 1,002 Lazio fans at Lecce. I mean, it's Wednesday, it's not holiday. That's impressive. And then they ruin everything. I have to admit, and we were talking about this before the podcast. I didn't hear a thing. I was watching it on Sky. I didn't hear a thing. Sari said the same thing. But I mean, if they stop the match, uh, something happened. Let's not try to say I didn't hear it, so it didn't happen. And this is embarrassing. This is really embarrassing. New year 2023, and still we have to talk about this thing. This is terrible. So no excuse to this. But Alistair, don't get me wrong, but Infantino talking about this after that he organized a World Cup in a country that has, I mean, so many issues with, homosexuality and things like that. That's terrible.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think we want to turn this into an Infantino podcast or we'll be here for a while, but no, but I think it goes to show that when these incidents occur, I think we can all agree by now that there's definitely a problem with this among the Lazio support. By no means represents the majority of the Lazio support or your average Lazio fan, but there is an issue with it. And whenever these incidents occur, it drags the entire club's name through the mud, and it drags the names of all Lazio fans through the mud, as we've said and discussed for years
Yeah.
doing this podcast. And yeah, say what you want about Infantino, but Infantino doesn't come and say anything about this if it doesn't occur. It gives people an opportunity to pounce once again, and quite rightly, to be honest, because this kind of behavior needs to be called out. It needs to be taken more seriously. And for my money, that's a huge responsibility lies with the club, who haven't said anything about this incident.
Not at the
And
moment, at least.
well, as we record, and with Lega Serie A, who are famously inactive when it comes to dealing with racist abuse, not just with Lazio fans, but there's racist incidents happening all the time in Serie A and beyond. And it's just not something that's ever taken seriously enough. There's never heavy enough punishment to actually deal with this. I remember having a conversation with a friend who's a West Ham fan who told me, and I was asking him, about when the dark old days of their fans behaving terribly. And he said they had this huge cleanup act, essentially with the dawn of technology, where as soon as they were able to identify who was actually doing the racist abuse, they could get them on CCTV, facial recognition, strip them of their membership, they're out. I just don't understand why in this day and age that kind of thing isn't happening more often, because this won't stop until these people are given a reason to stop. And at the moment, they'll be very proud of themselves and think it's a great laugh and whatever, and they can get away with it because they have been getting away with it time and time
Yeah,
again. So I
I mean,
really think stricter action. It's high time that this was taken more seriously and punishments were meted out. And I don't mind if that's on Lazio. If Lazio have to be the first team to be given a strict punishment, so be it, because it's for the greater good of the entire game in Italy. It just cannot continue.
yeah, I mean, clubs should take responsibility and start acting. As you were saying, CCTV. I don't believe that the reason is because the Olimpico is an old stadium. I guess CCTV works fine even in a stadium like that. I don't believe they don't have identified these people already, and it's simply unacceptable that they find a way to still get into the matches. So this is simply unacceptable. And as you were mentioning, Serie A and Lazio should start taking this seriously and start acting, not only with press release that, yeah, are good, but it's nothing. I mean, doesn't make anything, right? We spoke with Lazio Libertà, what was it, a year ago. They start doing something, but without the club, without the police, without the authority, um, it won't do nothing. So I agree. Lazio and Serie A has to start acting, especially because it was an away match. It's not difficult to identify those people. So let's hope that this changed something. Let's hope that Lazio take charge and finally do something to stop this behavior that is simply embarrassing. Simply embarrassing.
Yeah, exactly. And then that way, then we can actually just do what we're supposed to do as fans and just focus on the football. And that's, I think, what we all want to do. It's where we take our enjoyment in life is from following our team. So we don't, the rest of us especially, don't want to have to deal with these kind of things constantly. So yeah, absolutely. Having said that, today, Vittorio, I'm not sure if you do want to focus on the
No,
football. What went wrong in your opinion? Because it was one of these games, and we've seen them before, where there's two sides of the coin. You know, it's the Jekyll and Hyde of Lazio, where somehow in the same match we managed to see, I guess, two completely different attitudes. And once again, it's the old word mentality that's been coming up from Sari, from fans afterwards. So, what do you think happened?
I don't know if, because this is not the first time. This year, I think about a match against Salernitana, uh, against Sampdoria. There have been a couple of matches when Lazio looked in control of the match, went ahead and stopped playing. And then suddenly it's tough to turn on again when the match is going and the other team find confidence and start playing. So I guess that scoring too early, having all those opportunities too early, made Lazio player think, well, this is an easy match. We're going to win easily. And instead, Lecce came out in the second half and dominated, because we have to be honest, Lecce deserved to win. And the fact that annoys me more is that in the second half, Lazio didn't have a shot on target. You're down against Lecce and you're not able to have a shot on target. That's simply unacceptable. And I know some of our listener and Lazio fan blame Maurizio Sarri, but these were things happening even with Simone Inzaghi. So I don't blame the manager. I blame the team. And I don't know. Do we have to sell all 25 players of the roster to get solve this problem? I really don't know, but it's incredible. And if you want to fight for the Champions League, well, this performance won't allow you to get in the top four.
Absolutely not. Yeah, I think that it's something Sadi's talked about ever since he came in, essentially is something that he's inherited, is this mentality, this kind of attitude of complacency, which sets in from time to time. And we've seen him and heard him, complain about the same thing from time to time throughout this season. We've also seen at moments where he's actually been happy that that's not been happening. So you would like to think that it's a kind of ongoing process of kind of steady improvement, and that there's going to be the odd occasion when the mask slips and we see the old Lazio again. And I think if you're looking for a generous reading of what happened today, that could be it. That this is a blip in a kind of path towards an improved overall team mentality. But it is difficult to look at it that way when you've become so accustomed to it. And it wasn't so long ago that we were at the Olimpico watching Lazio get hammered by Salernitana, having been
Yeah.
1-0 up. 1-0 up at half time in that game as well, I think,
Yes.
if I remember correctly. And so I think there is a suggestion there that there's a bit of a problem here with complacency, with underestimating opponents, with getting too comfortable in the lead, with perhaps thinking a bit too much of yourselves, a little bit of arrogance in there. I'm not sure. I think Lecce do deserve credit for changes they made and the way they came out in the second half. They were excellent, and that this isn't a terrible Lecce team. That's 3 wins in a row for them now. But at the same time, there is a problem with this still.
I thought Lazio midfield was awful. Again, we started quite well, but I thought Cataldi was playing decent, but the other two, Milinkovic-Savic and Basic, another terrible performance. Basic wasted a huge chance that could finish the match. And after that, I don't remember Basic doing nothing. It was funny because Sky commentators was saying that Basic was having a great match. I totally disagree. And I thought in the second half, him and Milinkovic-Savic was pretty much invisible. I think that from a football point of view, there is where Lazio lost the match. Our midfield simply disappeared in the second half. And without Luis Alberto, with Vecino coming in and again being awful as well, we didn't create that much because our midfield was pretty much awful for 95 minutes. And that's another big question mark because we were seeing improvement from Basic last year, but the Basic we saw yesterday, it was a huge regression comparing to the past. So I'm concerned, and as well, Milinkovic-Savic finished bad the season. We talked about it last year, right? 2022, the last couple of matches of Sergei weren't really perfect. And I don't know, we were talking, well, maybe he's focusing on the World Cup. Well, World Cup is finished, and still we didn't see the same Sergei. Is it because he's thinking about transfer market? Is it because he's not fit? Is it because he's tired of the World Cup? I don't know. But if this is Sergei, then maybe we don't need him.
Come on now. Well, look, I mean, I think that the guy set such high standards, doesn't he? That the problem is that in reality, everyone, unless you're a complete freak like Messi or someone, you are going to have off days from time to time. I definitely wouldn't say Milinkovic-Savic has had a kind of slump of form this season, or he's had a bad season or anything like that. Yeah, I think there are always going to be lots of unknowns around this the comeback after the World Cup. It's been a long time, 50 something days since the last match, and so there was an element of pre-season about this, an element of kind of first game where everyone's finding their feet again. So yeah, I know what you mean. The midfield was a cause of concern. I think Luis Alberto we're going to have to talk about as well, because that's another element which, if you're looking for somewhere that there could be an argument for destabilization around transfer rumors, that's the one, really. I think Milinkovic-Savic is so used to it by now that I can't really believe that he's feeling destabilized about transfer speculation, because there isn't really any believable transfer speculation out there at the moment around him. So yeah, I think Alberto's future is the big distraction in that squad at the moment, and the January transfer market is obviously now open. So yeah, we'll need to follow that one along.
I don't believe that Luis Alberto will leave in January. I mean, Cadiz is not a big club and doesn't have the money to pay him. So I don't think Lotito will open for a loan. And Iglitare yesterday talked about it before the match, saying that there's no chance Luis Alberto will stay at least till the end of the season. And it's funny, Alistair, because in the friendly match of this winter break, Luis Alberto was by far the best player on the pitch. And then he got injured. And we missed him terribly, because I thought he was playing much better in this winter break that we saw last year. So I was really looking forward to see Luis Alberto play. We missed him, and I don't know, because then there are question mark. Why Sarri didn't call him if Luis Alberto? Because the funny thing is, he trained the day before the match, but hasn't been called for the match. If he was able enough to train, why wasn't he on the bench? I mean, Lazio, the last, what was it, 10 minutes, played 4-2-4 with Luca Romero playing like trequartista behind Ciro Immobile. I mean, if he had Luis Alberto, even for 10 minutes, that would give us more chances to find at least the equalizer, right? So I don't know what's going on there, but again, something is not good. It's not working there.
I do appreciate the way that Sarri talks so honestly about this, though. He kind of has done from the start, but I can't remember the exact quotes now, so I'm kind of paraphrasing. But he said something along the lines of that, as soon as he arrived, Alberto was wanting to leave, and every single transfer market since, Alberto could be leaving or not leaving, but he's still here. And it's a good point. We've been hearing this for a long, long time. It's a different matter, I think, from the Milinkovic-Savic stuff, because that is generally transfer speculation that's generated from the outside, not from the inside. And that's something we've always appreciated about Sergei, is the way he doesn't agitate to try and get a move, or he's not, sending people in to create disruption. And Alberto, on the other hand, seems to one way or another made it fairly clear over the years that he would be open to leaving the club. So it would be a shame, because I really do think, although he's not been in the starting lineup as much this year, he's actually been a really important part of the squad overall, and the influence he's been able to have from the bench as an impact substitute in games has been huge. He's played pretty well from the start on occasion as well. And I think the kind of quality of depth and options is something we've been so desperately looking for, especially in midfield, for a long time now. And this season, we finally feel like we have a bit of a working rotation in that midfield, instead of an absolutely nailed-on three we used to have of Alberto, Sergei, and Lucas. Now there's actually a couple of options for each position. And Alberto abandoning ship halfway through the season would kind of ruin that a bit, unless the club was able to somehow draft in a suitable replacement immediately. But this is January, Vittorio. It's not a month where we exactly get very excited about transfers, is it?
No. Well, let's see what happens. I mean, I think we desperately need a left back, because let's not mention we have three players available: Lazzari, Marusic, and Isai. Radu is there, but he hardly played. So I think we need one player there. We talked, I don't know, years about the Vice Immobile. I think, again, even there, Lazio would need something. Are they arriving this January? I doubt it, honestly. So, I mean, January is never a good month for us, usually, especially talking about the transfer market. So I don't expect that much, to be honest with you. But at the same time, watching the performance of yesterday, I don't think it's an issue that a transfer market can solve. Again, as I was saying at the beginning, do we have to sell all the players available to fix this issue? Because Lazio was a better team than Lecce, and we lost. Lazio was playing better against Salernitana, and we found a way to lose. Lazio was dominating against Sampdoria, and they found a way to find the equalizer. So I think it's a mental issue, and I don't understand why we're not able to fix it after all these years. So again, I would be surprised if Lazio sign a left back, but I don't think this will solve the problem, right?
No, and the going back to us discussing before, if you try and look at it as a kind of steady improvement where there'll be the odd blip, well, this season we've already had, this game, the Salernitana game, and the 5-1 at Midtjylland. I mean, those are already three pretty significant bad results, which have come from collapses. I mean, the two league games from being 1-0 up at halftime and losing to lower table sides, and then the Midtjylland one being one of the most embarrassing European results in the club's history. So that's a lot. There's an issue there. I mean, how much of that is Sarri's responsibility? Do you think Sarri's too focused on the creating the patterns of play, building the networks of passing that he's so famous for, and getting the side playing his tactical model? Do you think there's perhaps too much focus on that side of the game and less focus on the motivation, the mentality side of coaching, which is so important? Because he talks about it a lot, but will he be doing enough to try and change that mentality other than just flagging up when it's an issue or not? Because I mean, yesterday he did kind of put his hands up about this bizarre situation where Milinkovic-Savic was substituted, and it turned out they were actually wanting to substitute Basic, but somehow ended up it was kind of Chinese whispers, and the wrong name was communicated to the fourth official, and so the wrong player came off, which is kind of complete chaos of communication on the sidelines. So what's
Well,
happening there?
yeah, I mean, I don't think that this mentality is only of the players on the pitch. It has to be involving everybody. And we saw it, right? When Vecino came in, he didn't do pretty much nothing. So it's not only the 11 players on the pitch. And this is even more concerning because if the manager or the staff make this type of mistake in an important part of the match, because I mean, we were beginning of second half, we were struggling, but we were still what was it, 1-0 for us, I think, at the moment. So that's concerning because I can understand maybe players not focusing 100% of the match, but if even the staff make this mistake, then that's a huge red flag for me. So yeah, really disturbing. I have to be honest. I thought Milinkovic would have. I would have subbed Milinkovic-Savic at the end of the first half. He was embarrassing. I don't think he would have changed the match, but it's always Sergei. You know that he can always find a way to decide the match, even if he's playing terrible. So, but yeah, I mean, the impression I had after that match is that not only the players, the full atmosphere of Lazio was not focused on the match. And this cannot happen at the Serie A level. This cannot happen in a team that is fighting for the Champions League. Every point counts. Every single match is important. Now, Roma has the same points we have. We are not anymore in the top 4 position. So, dropping this point is huge.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw the Inter-Napoli game last night, but it's a great win for Inter. They look really good, actually, and they're getting Lukaku back now, Lautaro back from the World Cup. I think for a side that a lot of people, myself included, had as title winners at the start of the season, it was only a matter of time, really, before Inter started pushing up into those positions. And we really need to if Lazio stand any chance of keeping pace with that top four, they have to be winning these games. There's no way around it. And losing to Salernitana and Lecce is really gonna sting us at the end of the season, because it's a 3-point gap now already. And yes, okay, we're not even halfway through the season yet, and it's easy to forget that because we've had this massive break in the middle of the season and it's early January, so it feels a bit strange. But European games are still going to be coming thick and fast. We've got a Conference League trophy to keep in Rome, and it's. I don't know. I feel like it could do with a spark of a January edition. I think even one, with just something to kind of lift it a bit, to feel like, okay, we're committing to the position we're in, because this is something where I think a lot of fans feel like Lotito has let them down a bit in the past, is not investing at the moments where there's an opportunity to invest. And I think right now, where Lazio are 3 points off the Champions League places, it's a chance to really push on and commit and invest in the squad and say, right, go and get us that 4th place, because the riches that come with that, as we know, are enormous, and bigger presumably than they will have been last time when COVID was involved. So I don't know. It's a deflating start to the year, because it felt like we were really building towards something, and it's kind of gone out the window now, because there was this run of matches to start the year with Lecce, and now we've got Empoli and Sassuolo. It felt like a good run of matches to kind of get the engine going again at the start of the year. But Empoli coming up on Sunday at home is absolute must win. There's no excuses for that one, really, because that's that would be a bit of a disaster to get anything less than 3 points there.
No, you're absolutely right. We need now to win against Empoli. And the positive thing is that we have very few days before the Empoli match, so we don't have to think about this match. We have to immediately think about the next one at the Stadio Olimpico. So, Alistair, I would close it here. Otherwise, I get too much depressed after this performance. Again, thanks everybody for listening. I know it's very tough to start the year like that, but this is Lazio. I mean, if you wanted to win easily, you could go and support Real Madrid, right? Alistair, you wanted to say something else?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to bring in one positive thing to end the podcast and cheer you up a bit, which is Ciro Immobile. We've not mentioned him yet.
No.
But back from injury, back in the team and all that, and he's now alone in 9th place in the all-time Serie A scoring charts, and a great goal from him as well. And you look at that list, he's going to climb it. He's going to climb it. He's only he's 1 off Hamrin now, I think, 15 off Baggio. He's getting up there. So yeah, King Ciro can cheer us up if nothing else can.
And again, scoring the first match of the new year, it's something that he's getting used to it, right?
Yeah, it didn't take him very long either. 14 minutes. So yeah, I think that's going to be a real confidence booster to this team, because obviously we've had to deal for such a long period without him. So that will be massive. And if we're looking for a silver lining to this game, I think having Ciro back starting again, even though Sarri said he's not at his absolute top, he's in the starting lineup, he's scoring a goal and he's looking sharp. So that's definitely a positive.
Definitely, I agree with you. Thanks again, Alistair, for joining me. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And we'll be back after Lazio Empoli. Take care. Bye.
Cheers.